Basically, the first thing is just find a safe area to pull over. Uh, Pull over. If the area is not, if you don't feel comfortable, if it's not a well lit area, turn on your flashers. Let them know that you're going to pull over. Find a good spot, and basically, we hope the officer's respectful, and you give them the information, and usually it can be on your way.
Okay. And so if you're not in a well-lit area, would you advise for someone to find a well-lit area? So, or I think you mentioned putting on your flashers.
If you would just signal to them that, and I use, for instance, a female may feel comfortable out in a rural area. Uh, I understand that, and I believe most law enforcement understand that. And if it is, just turn on your flashers to let them know that you're not trying to elude them or get away, and find a good area to pull over.
Thank you. And I guess the last question would be, what are your rights once you're pulled over? I know sometimes during traffic stops, some people like to ask why were they pulled over? What would you advise them to say? Or
Well, normally when you're stopped on a traffic stop, the officer will tell you why they pulled you over. In that case, they don't. There's not a problem with asking. And it all goes back to everybody being courteous and nice. I put myself in a position, if I was pulling somebody over and I didn't tell them and they asked me, I believe that it's their right to know why they was pulled over.
okay, all right. Well, that was it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Um, the world.
Well, if they're going to be stopped, um, the reason they may be stopped is because of equipment violation. They may also be driving a vehicle that fits the description of a vehicle that was involved in a crime. They may have violated a traffic law, and then the officer may notice them driving in a manner that is suspicious.
Right. And so, of course, anybody who may get stopped, they may feel a little, I guess, anxiety or wondering, oh no, am I in trouble? So, what could you say to them? What should they do when they are being stopped?
Well, if they're being stopped, first thing I would recommend that they pull over as quick as possible out the flow of traffic. Um, if they can't find a place to pull over out the flow of traffic safely, signal your intentions that you are going to pull over. If that's not possible, if once you do pull over, the officer will probably ask you to stay in the vehicle, keep your hands visible. The officer will ask for your driver's license, your proof of insurance, and also your registration of the vehicle. And if there's a passenger in the car with you, just have them to keep their hands visible so that the officers can see them.
Right. And you mentioned signaling to the officers that you are pulling over. Let's say it's at night and they're trying to find a lit area. How would they do that?
Well, they will continue to drive at a reasonable speed, not showing that they're threatening to leave the scene. Signal, and once they pull over to an area, they can also cut on their interior light inside the vehicle so the officer can see inside the vehicle, and it'll make both of them feel a lot safer that it's not a threat.
So while they're pulling over, turn on their light.
No, once they pull over,
Once
turn
they
it.
pull over,
Correct.
turn on their light. Okay. And there's traffic violations, of course, and we've seen situations where they've escalated. What would you say as an officer, as one of the law, to people who may get pulled over, as to how to de-escalate the situation? And is it the responsibility of the officers to do that as well?
Well, the officers of both parties, the officer is definitely looking for safety measures. And so the officer, when he's approaching the car, he's going to, look for the driver's hands. So, that's for both the officer and the driver. And he's going to ask specific things, like I said, ask for the license, the registration, the proof of insurance. And try not to make any sudden movements. If you can, keep your hands visible.
Right. And well, yeah, that's one. But I guess for you as an officer, like, what would you say to someone who gets pulled over? Like, do they have the right to ask why they're getting pulled over? And when would you think, as an officer, would be an appropriate time to do that?
Well, officers usually identify themselves, who they are, and the reason why they're pulling that individual over. So those things are going to take place at the beginning of the traffic stop.
Officers should do that.
Yeah, usually the officers are going to introduce themselves, say, I'm Lieutenant Sumner with the Huntsville Police Department. The reason I'm pulling you over today is because you have a tail light out. And then it goes from there.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess my last question is, again, we've just seen lately some instances of traffic stops going wrong, going bad, ending up deadly, actually. What would you say to the public, to people who may feel, man, if I do get pulled over, I don't know what to do. What should I do?
Well, for one, the things I've just listed, said to you, those things should actually take place. And know that the officer also, as he walks up to that vehicle, just like you're feeling, he may feel the same way. So you're both trying to make sure that you're safe. So just remember that. The officer has to be safe as well as he wants you to be safe at the same time. So just realize that.
Okay. Is there anything you wanted to add? I feel like there's one more thing we should probably touch on as it relates to just de-escalation.
Well, communication. Communicate, what you want, what you need to ask the officer, and just communicate. The officer needs to communicate with you as well. Well, just remember that, every interaction with a police officer is not a bad interaction.